kunja vihari. Gopijana Balava Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopijana Balava Girivaradhari. Keśavārjunayoḥ Bhajana Ranjana. Keśavārjunayoḥ Bhajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Pijana Balava Girivaradhari. Oh Gopijana Balava Girivaradhari. Yashodhanandana Vajajana Ranjana. Yashodhanandana Vajajana Ranjana. Yashodhanandana Vajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Shri Kṛṣṇa Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda. Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Shri Kṛṣṇa Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda. Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Gadadhara Kṛṣṇa Hare Kṛṣṇa 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Rama Hare Rama Rama Oh Hare Kṛṣṇa Hare Kṛṣṇa 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Gaur Hari Bol Gaur 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 Hare Kṛṣṇa Hare Kṛṣṇa 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Gaur Hari Bol Gaur 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 Hare Rama Hare Kṛṣṇa Hare Kṛṣṇa 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Kṛṣṇa Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, go Hari Bol. Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaur Hari Bol. Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. Joy Nitya Lila Vishnu Vishupavramam Sabari Raja Guitar Stars Shishima. The Divine Loving Grace AC Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Joy. ISKCON founder Acharya, BBT founder Acharya. Shri Krishna Balaram Mandir founder Acharya, savior of the whole world, Srila Prabhupada Ki Joy. Ananda Koti Vaishnava Vrindi Ki Jai Namacharya. Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Premsi Gaur Shri Krishna Jai, Dana Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivashri Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai, Shri Radha Krishna Govindnath Shyama Kunda Radha Kunda, Kiri Govardhana Ki Jai, Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Navadip Mayapur Dham Ki Jai, Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai, Gangamai Ki Jai, Jamunamai Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Ikdharma Harinam Sankirtan Jagi Ki Jai, Shri Prabhupada's Transcendental Book Distribution Ki Jai, Go Mati Go Seva Ki Jai, Shishi Gornitai Ki Jai, Shishi Krishna Balaram Ki Jai, Shishi Radha Shyama Sundar Lalita Vishaka Ki Jai, Shamir Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories assembled Brijvasis, all glories assembled Brijvasis, all glories assembled Brijvasis, all glories Lotus feet of Shri Guru, Shigaranda Shigila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So tonight we're reading from Bhagavad-gītā, chapter 18, text number 76. And we get to hear about the ecstasy of Sanjaya Prabhu. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Sanjaya Uvacha Iti Aham Vasudevasya. Sorry. Sorry. Okay. Rājan saṁsmṛtya saṁvādam imam adbhutam keśavārjunayoḥ puṇyam hṛṣyāmi cha muhur. Rājan saṁsmṛtya saṁvādam imam adbhutam keśavārjunayoḥ puṇyam hṛṣyāmi cha muhur. Rājan saṁsmṛtya saṁvādam imam adbhutam keśavārjunayoḥ puṇyam hṛṣyāmi cha muhur. Please chant. Rājan saṁsmṛtya saṁvādam imam adbhutam keśavārjunayoḥ puṇyam hṛṣyāmi cha muhur. Rājan saṁsmṛtya saṁvādam imam adbhutam keśavārjunayoḥ puṇyam hṛṣyāmi cha muhur. Rājan saṁsmṛtya imam adbhutam keśavārjunayoḥ puṇyam hṛṣyāmi cha muhur. Mataji's? Anyone else? Word for word. Rājan, O King. Saṁsmṛtya, remembering. Saṁsmṛtya, remembering. Saṁvādam, message. Imam, this. Adbhutam, wonderful. Keśava, of Lord Kṛṣṇa. Arjunayoḥ, and Arjuna. Puṇyam, pious. hṛṣyāmi, I am taking pleasure. Cha, also. Muhu, repeatedly. Sanjaya is speaking. O King, as I repeatedly recall this wondrous and holy dialogue between Kṛṣṇa and Arjuna, I take pleasure, being thrilled at every moment. Please repeat, O King.
O King.
As I repeatedly recall this wondrous and holy dialogue between Kṛṣṇa and Arjuna, I take pleasure, being thrilled at every moment. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The understanding of Bhagavad-gītā is so transcendental that anyone who becomes conversant with the topics of Arjuna and Kṛṣṇa becomes righteous. And he cannot forget such talks. This is the transcendental position of spiritual life. In other words, one who hears the Gita from the right source, directly from Kṛṣṇa, attains full Kṛṣṇa consciousness. The result of Kṛṣṇa consciousness is that one becomes increasingly enlightened, and he enjoys life with a thrill, not only for some time, but at every moment. Rājan saṁsmṛtya saṁvādam idam adbhutam keśavārjunayoḥ puṇyam hṛṣyāmi cha muhur. O King, as I repeatedly recall this wondrous and holy dialogue between Kṛṣṇa and Arjuna, I take pleasure being thrilled at every moment. Oma gyan timarandasya gunanjana salakaya chakshurun militam jena tasmai shri gurave namaha chitaitanmanobhishtam shtavitam yena bhutale swayam rupa gadamayam dharati svapadantikam vandeham shiguru shiyuta parakamalam shigurun vaishnavamscha shirupam sagrajatam sahagana raghunatan vitam tam sajivam sadvaitam savadutam purishana saitam Kṛṣṇa chaitanya devam Shri Radha Kṛṣṇa padan sahagana lalita shivishakan vitamscha He Kṛṣṇa kuruna sindhu dinabandho jagatpate Govesha govika kanta radha kanta namostute Tapta kanchana gaurangi radhe vrindavaneshware Rishabhanu sute devi panamami hari priye Vanchakopatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha Putitanam bhavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha Jaya Shri Kṛṣṇa Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivashri Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Kṛṣṇa 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Kṛṣṇa 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. I was born in the darkest depths of ignorance, but my eternal spiritual master, His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, has forced my eyes open and continues to force my eyes open with the torchlight of knowledge. Therefore, I offer my most humble and respectful obeisances under the dust, under the Vrindavan dust at His lotus feet. Certainly, we would all be completely lost without Him. So I wanted to thank you for the opportunity to say something, although I am completely unqualified. And almost all of you are from Punya Bhumi. And you've been residents in Vrindavan for who knows how long. And from your childhood, you grew up hearing Mahabharata, Bhagavad-gītā, hearing the pastimes of Kṛṣṇa. Your parents most likely are great devotees of Kṛṣṇa. Your ancestry, who knows how far it goes back. Maybe you have some descendants who are direct associates of Kṛṣṇa when he was here 5,000 years ago. I would know nothing about this if it weren't for Srila Prabhupada. So please bear with me and forgive me for any discrepancies, and please bless me so I may be able to say something that could be according to our Guru Parampara and be beneficial in some ways. In a previous verse, Sanjaya said that, and thus I've heard the conversation of two great souls, Kṛṣṇa and Arjuna, and so wonderful is that message that my hair is standing on end. We can just imagine the position of Sanjaya, who by his guru's grace, Srila Vyasadev's grace, he was able to see as if a television within his heart, completely observe everything on the battlefield. And in spite of the outcome in the battle, Dhritarashtra is of course a different mindset, and there's so many instructions that we can learn from this. This is the nature of family attachment, adbhutam, this deep well of family attachment, and having the great fortune, like I said, of taking birth in India and having descendants and family who are all devotees, that you're all incredibly fortunate. The understanding of Bhagavad-gītā is so transcendental that Prabhupada says anyone who becomes conversant with the topics of Kṛṣṇa and Arjuna, he becomes righteous, and he can't forget such topics. And he says that the result of hearing in Kṛṣṇa consciousness is that one becomes more and more enlightened, and gradually he enjoys life with a thrill. Not only for some time, but at every moment. So this Kṛṣṇa consciousness process is a completely transcendental process because it's non-different from Kṛṣṇa. And we're engaged in this gradual process on the path, culminating in full surrender in ecstatic love to Krishna's lotus feet. And of course, we all begin the process on different levels. In Bhagavad-gītā also Krishna says, Chaturvida bhajante mam jnana sukriti Arjuna arto jigyasa artarti jnanicha bharatarshava. He says, O blessed among the Bharatas, 4 kinds of pious men render devotional service to me. The distressed, the desire of wealth, the inquisitive, and he who is searching for knowledge of the absolute truth. So in my experience of Kṛṣṇa consciousness, I joined the Hare Krishna movement in 1972 in San Francisco. And in my practice of Kṛṣṇa consciousness for it's a little over 50 years, about half a century, one of my strongest realizations is that the process of introspection is very, very important in our gradual and constant realization of Kṛṣṇa consciousness. Every day in the 10 offenses we chant, it's an offense to think that the chanting of Hare Krishna, if we're doing it, to forget why we're doing it. And it's very easy because, we're doing it every day over and over again. But we are on the path of full surrender. And so we are all attempting to get to the platform of spontaneous devotional service. I live in a place called New Vrindavan. Some of you may have heard it before. It was the first farm community Prabhupada started in America in 1968. And it's become a real place of pilgrimage, and there's all kind of people tens of thousands of Indian descent persons who come there and visit. We have what's called Prabhupada's Palace, which is a memorial devotees built for Srila Prabhupada. And we have extensive guest facilities. Many guests come. And my duty there is I help manage Prabhupada's Palace, and I give tours throughout the day. And there's many people, most of the people are from India who come. And most of the people who come are not very interested in Krishna consciousness. They've come to America, they've absorbed American culture, and they are satisfied living in forgetfulness. And I tell them when I'm preaching to them on the tour that many people think, oh, this is really kind of cute, these looks like white Hindus that are doing some of these rituals, like chanting Hare Krishna. It's really nice. And I explain to them that this is not what you think it is. We are actually entering into a direct relationship with our Creator. And many of these mysteries of our eternal soul gradually are becoming revealed to us through this process of Krishna consciousness. So as Rupa Goswami says, Adau Shraddha Tata Sadho Sango Ta Bhajana Kriya Tato Narta Nivritishat Tato Nishta Ruchis Tata. Prabhupada says that in the beginning, one must have a preliminary desire for self-realization, and this brings us to associate with the devotees. And through this process of Krishna consciousness, we are sincerely engaged in chanting minimum 16 rounds a day, following the 4 regulative principles, and applying as many of these important principles of devotional service, such as are explained by Srila Rupa Goswami, principles of Vaishnava etiquette, principles of surrender, and which Prabhupada really nicely explains. I like, of course, Prabhupada has instructed us that we should speak the philosophy in our own words, so that our own realizations come forth. But personally, I, as much as possible, like repeating Srila Prabhupada's own words, the way he says them, because there's incredible potency in that. Prabhupada called his purports his spiritual ecstasies. And I always tell the devotees that we should read Prabhupada's books as much as possible, but not primarily for the knowledge. Knowledge is important, but it's secondary. What's the most important reason we should read Prabhupada's purports? Prabhupada called his purports his devotional ecstasies. And Prabhupada is fully present in his words. And so Prabhupada explains the 6 principles of surrender. And this is from a class he gives, so I'll explain them as he says them. He says one should perform only those activities that are favorable for devotional service to Krishna. And so this should be in the back of our mind, thinking like Sanjaya, who says he was thrilled upon hearing this dialogue. Prabhupada says we will become thrilled, not for some time, but at every moment. This should be the goal of our practice, and we can attain that by these 6 principles of surrender. First of all, one should perform only those activities favorable for Krishna and give up everything unfavorable for Krishna's service. One should believe firmly that Krishna will protect one in all circumstances, and that no one is a better protector than Krishna. One should have the conviction that Krishna is one's maintainer, and one should not take shelter of any demigod for maintenance. And the 5th one is one should always remember that one's activities and desires are not independent. We are not independent. This is something I've struggled with my whole life because I grew up in Western culture, in American culture. I didn't grow up in the Vedic culture. And so we were bred with this unsubmissive attitude from birth. But Prabhupada said one should remember that one's activities and desires are not independent. And what comes to mind also when Prabhupada says that, Prabhupada says that Kṛṣṇa is the active principle of everything. And as we go on in Kṛṣṇa consciousness, speaking from my own experience, I experience a lot of lamentation because I realize most of my life as an aspiring devotee in Kṛṣṇa consciousness has been spent just like, you go to, I feel like I went to the airport buying a ticket for like an incredible destination. And all of a sudden, after many decades of practice, I noticed that the airplane never took off. It's still taxiing around the runway. And so it's taken me long time to get to this point where Kṛṣṇa consciousness becomes something more than simply a practice. It becomes a reality. And that will become, as we advance in this process of full surrender, culminating in being thrilled at every moment, we should remember that Kṛṣṇa is completely present at all times within his holy name. So Prabhupada says one should always remember that one's activities and desires are not independent, and in other words, the devotee should feel completely dependent on Kṛṣṇa, and thus he should act and think as Kṛṣṇa desires. And the sixth principle of surrender is that one should always think of himself the poorest of the poor and feel totally dependent on the mercy of Kṛṣṇa. Prabhupada goes on to say that a devotee who follows these six principles of surrender always thinks, "O Lord, I am yours in every respect. I am your eternal servant." In this way, a pure devotee, Prabhupada says, becomes cleansed. So as we go on with this process of full surrender and this gradual process of Kṛṣṇa consciousness, and it is a gradual process. It is, but there is a quality in our practice that will help us to get to become an advanced devotee really quickly. And if we have that intensity in our devotional service, then very soon we will come to that point of being thrilled at every moment. So first of all, there's Shraddha, and that faith leads us to association devotees. Then we take up the practice of pure devotional service. And then as we go on in our practice, we notice that there are some very deep-seated anarthas that are keeping us from Krishna's right here. Prabhupada is seeing Kṛṣṇa eye to eye at every moment. And we can become qualified to do that. Many people say, especially when I'm giving tours and things, after the tour, many of them say, "Whoa, you're a Prabhupada disciple, you're so incredibly fortunate." And I tell them, yes, I've been fortunate to take initiation from a bona fide spiritual master like Srila Prabhupada. But now, I have to become qualified as a qualified disciple. And so when we think about this principle of pleasing the spiritual master and getting his blessings, because everything is possible just by the blessings of the spiritual master. Mukham kuroti vachalam pangum langayate yakrita kripa tamam vandeshi gurun dinataram. By the mercy of the spiritual master. There are actually several verses in that regard. A dumb person can recite poetry. A lame person could cross mountains. A blind man can see the stars in the sky. So it's unlimited what we can achieve. And if we really want to please Srila Prabhupada, nothing will please him more than becoming a pure devotee. And so this process of anartha nivriti is a very painstaking process. And it says in Bhagavatam, my favorite chapter in Srimad Bhagavatam is first canto, second chapter, because in there it explains the whole process of how, so many famous verses are there, Shrinvatam Shrakata Krishna, Punya Shravana Kirtana, Hridyantashto, Shibadrin, Vidyanoti, Sritatan, this process of how, when we're hearing and chanting Krishna's names, Krishna's just sitting back and observing us. No, he's working really hard in our heart, cleaning our heart as we're hearing and chanting. And so many nice verses from there. And it says that suprasidity, if we want to become really cleansed, we have to follow the process of hearing and chanting without motivation and without stoppage, without break. So these are also two things to keep in mind. And I've thought about this also, and to be unmotivated, I'm thinking, well, I'm motivated in so many different ways. That's not something that I can immediately get a hold of. But accepting the other thing, which is to have the process unbroken, I can apply myself to that. And so the more we execute our Krishna consciousness with the motivation to not stop, because when I grew up in Krishna consciousness in the West as a young devotee, like I said, we would know nothing about this if it weren't for Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada saved us. And we were, grew up in this materialistic culture in America. And we had to go out and face our countrymen, none of them who knew anything about Krishna consciousness, and approach them to try to sell them one of Prabhupada's books. And it was a very, very humbling process. And within that process, as a young brahmachari, we tried to bring the intensity that we had from our devotional practice every day out on the street with us. And so we would act in such a way, because we were really afraid of forgetting Krishna, even for a moment. Because when you're out there distributing books to people who have no real interest in Krishna consciousness, no idea what it's about at all, it takes a lot of purity. And to get that purity and that special mercy from Krishna, you have to constantly pray for it. So we would go out and we would always be chanting in between people, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, and then hand them a book and then say something about Krishna. We're always endeavoring to not forget Krishna. And gradually by this process, we, by Prabhupada's mercy, we became, more and more advanced in Krishna consciousness. And as I'm up in the golden years, you can say, the last stage of my life, then those activities in my former days as a brahmachari were really, really helpful in so many ways. So that's also very, very helpful to execute our devotional service in that way, so that gradually we can feel completely satisfied in our heart. We have about 15 minutes left, so I think maybe we'll stop class a little bit early and we can take questions or any realizations anyone would like to share. Yes, Prabhuji.
Thank you very much for it. First I was hearing on YouTube your class, and then I came. So please forgive me asking question. Even I came in the last.
No problem.
But as you mentioned in your class, like 50 years of your practicing Krishna consciousness, you were saying your plane was like not took off, or it was just going in it. So how in like we practitioners who have just joined and trying to practice will realize this fact that I'm just wandering around, I have not started even.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's unlimited. It says that Kṛṣṇa is unlimited. And when Kṛṣṇa thinks about himself, even though he's already unlimited, he also expands more unlimitedly. Krishna consciousness is unlimited, and realization of Krishna consciousness is unlimited. And we can know we're making advancement when we start really getting a attachment for the process of hearing and chanting. This is the most important thing. And I started having, about 6 years ago, some health problems. And things like chronic fatigue and brain fog started attacking me. And I did, different things for my health at that time, physical and mental health. But I also started increasing my chanting. And that was something that transformed not only my spiritual life, but all aspects of my life. And more I'm coming to realize that, there's many different diseases we get as we get older. But I'm gradually getting the realization that there's actually only one disease. It's the material disease. And every situation we're in, whatever situation we're in, just like we heard Prabhupada talking about the principles of surrender, that one should always remember one's activities and desires are not independent, that we're always completely dependent on Kṛṣṇa. And if we can see that every situation we're in is a perfect situation for us to become Kṛṣṇa conscious in. And any so-called impediment that we may experience, such as disease or a marital problem or whatever, some mental problem or some lack of faith we may experience, it obviously is a challenge, but it can become an asset. Prabhupada talks about in the a book called The Light of the Bhagavad, small book Prabhupada wrote. In there he says that these so-called fall downs that we may have, or just weakness of heart, as we go on and apply ourselves in Kṛṣṇa consciousness, he says we may find they may actually become the pillars of success. So as I get older in this body and the senses don't have I don't have the power of memory that I used to have, as we get older, we start, having different, problems with our body and with our mind. But there's a silver lining in all this also. And if we take it as Krishna's arrangement, Krishna's mercy, then it can help us to intensify our practice of devotional service. Because we can realize that life is coming to a close. I better get really serious. My mother, about 6 years ago, I was managing 24-hour kirtan here in Vrindavan for a couple of years. And then my brother, who's a devotee, called me up. And he said, Prabhu, he said, our mother, who was 98 years old at the time, very independent woman living in the woods in the mountains of New Hampshire. Her husband, my father, passed away many years ago. He said she fell in the house. She didn't break anything, but she's in a rehab center. I think you should go take care of her. And I thought, like, I'm doing important service in Vrindavan. Why should I do that? But after thinking about it, I realized this is something that Kṛṣṇa wants me to do, Prabhupada wants me to do, and it was so incredibly beneficial for me in so many ways. So I left Vrindavan, and I did that for a couple of years. And the last year, I took care of her because I was her caregiver. She fell and she broke her hip, so she had to go into a what do you call them? A home. Not a homeless place, but like an old folks home, nursing home, they call it. It was the first time I'd ever been in a nursing home. And I would go there every day and visit her, and it freaked me out. And I was watching these people, and there's, getting ready to pass away, and some people are walking around babbling like children because they have Alzheimer's, and everyone's mind is falling apart, their bodies are falling apart, there's like rampant confusion. And I was looking at all that and was like, oh my God, that's me. In only a few years. So it was a real wake-up call, and of course I already had my sadhana, but that became helpful in realizing what a dangerous position we're in this material world. Maharaj gave I think he's from England, Maharaj this morning gave a really wonderful class talking about Muchakunda, and talking about how Muchakunda, slept for many, many thousands of years, I think. And so he prayed to Kṛṣṇa to please don't let me sleep anymore. So, we have this, we're all in this sleep of forgetfulness. And we should all pray for that, to have that intensity in our devotional practice. So more and more we can become active and ultimately, try to minimize our sleeping and our eating, especially as we get older. Anyway, as a kind of a roundabout answer, I hope that answered your question a little bit.
So it depends, like, sort of on our hearing and chanting.
I would say everything depends on the quality of our hearing and chanting. That's everything. Everything we're reading about is to convince us about the importance of chanting. This is Kali Yuga, right? If it was Satya Yuga, we'd all be demigods. We would be giants. We'd all be yogis. We would live a lifetime of 100,000 years. But what would that mean? That would mean we would have to meditate for 50, 60, 70,000 years. Then maybe some of us would become perfect, go back to Godhead. It's Kali Yuga. Like, look at the world. There's so many distractions. It's so degraded. Nobody lives a life of more than 100 years. Who even lives 100 years? But Lord Chaitanya, the most merciful incarnation, has appeared 500 years ago and is giving something no one in the history, no other incarnation in the history of this planet has ever given before. The highest level of love of God to the most insignificant and unqualified person. He has empowered his names with his own personal potency. Like I said, that's never happened before. In Treta Yuga, the Brahmins were potent, and they would chant mantras. The demigods would come. Sometimes Vishnu would appear. But they were qualified Brahmins. There's no qualified Brahmins nowadays. We're all, products of this Kali Yuga. But we can get that same perfection that in Satyuga took yogis 50, 60, 70,000 years to attain. We can get that same perfection in less than 100 years. Lord Chaitanya comes once in a day of Brahman. That's once every 4,300,000 years. He came 500 years ago. That's like a split. That's like he hasn't even left. Like Prabhupada came 40 years ago. He hasn't left. He's more present now in his Vani than he was even in his Vapu. Because even us, that was our big lamentation. I would say, all my God brothers, when Prabhupada left, we thought, we really blew it. We had no idea who Prabhupada was. Because he was so natural. It was so, anybody would be with him. He would, just by his physical presence, he would bring you up to his level. We didn't even realize, when he left the planet, But he's so present in his instructions and hidden in his purports, in his devotional ecstasies. So if we simply apply ourselves to this process and chant with full enthusiasm and in a prayerful mood, Hare Kṛṣṇa, Kṛṣṇa Kṛṣṇa, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama, Hare Hare, then we will gradually realize Kṛṣṇa as non-different from his name. But we can't understand it with our mind. We can't understand Kṛṣṇa. Atashri Kṛṣṇa madi nabhavet grahimendriyo seva mukhe jivido swayameva spratyada. Nobody can understand Kṛṣṇa with a mature mind and senses. Any other questions? Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji, in the Purport, Prabhupada was saying that dependence on Kṛṣṇa. You were mentioning.
Well, we were talking about that in the principles of surrender. Yeah.
So it's how we practice and how we should depend on Kṛṣṇa, because we have like authorities, and can you explain just how we should depend on Kṛṣṇa?
Well, the most important, there's a devotee living here named Mukunda Dat. He's not the pujari, Mukunda Dat. There's another Mukunda Dat. He wears a turban on his head and he's a scholar, and I really like his classes. When I listen to his classes, I'm always listening, trying to pick out something that will be personally important for me. And one of the things I heard him say is that, because I asked him in one class, what's the most important thing in our gradual development of Krishna? I said the most important thing is to try to understand where we are at in any particular given time. Because we have these human false egos, and we have these, we're still running on the chariot of the mind. And we're thinking we're our body. We're thinking, even if we're not thinking we're body, we're thinking we're our mind. And we have these material conceptions of ourselves. And so this is the great benefit of association with devotees, because Krishna is present in that association of devotees. And it doesn't matter whether it's a temple full of devotees or whether it's one other devotee. We should find like-minded association is important. But our authorities, we should accept them as Krishna. And when we're a beginning devotee, then we should, because this is becoming up, we're hearing the process of how Krishna consciousness is gradually goes from having some faith to associate with devotees, and then practicing Krishna consciousness, and then, the process of removing these impediments to our devotional service, and then eventually more and more we get a taste. And then we develop bhav, we develop our spiritual emotions, because every day, whether we realize it or not, we are uncovering our spiritual body and our spiritual senses. Our spiritual body has a mind, it has an intelligence. And as we become more and more advanced, we won't be using our material mind and intelligence so much. As we come more and more to the platform of spontaneous devotional service. And as we come to the second class platform of devotional service, where in the first platform of devotional service we see there's Kṛṣṇa. Krishna's in the deity form, and there's the devotee, there's the non-devotee. And as we come up into the Madhva platform, more and more we will start seeing Kṛṣṇa within everyone's heart, and seeing that Krishna's everywhere, he's in everything. And our attitude is really important. I often think that the most important, really the only thing I'm doing in the whole process of Krishna consciousness, following all these rules and regulations and working to try to become purified, is really all about one thing. Is all about changing my attitude and developing the pure devotional attitude. And when we see Krishna in everyone and within everything, and even if someone deals with us harshly, if we learn to see Krishna in that, when we have some disease, if we see, oh, no, this is nothing but Krishna coming to me in that form, then we will become advanced very, very quickly. Did that help?
Yes.
Any other questions? Our Prabhus, thank you very much for attending Bhagavad-gītā class. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.